Unfortunately, most indie films don't make their budget back. So what I want to talk about today is how to make a film that sells. Now, I'm not talking about a passion project. I'm not talking about an art house film, a story that you've passionately always wanted to tell in your soul. I'm talking about a film that will actually sell when it's finished, and it will make you back that budget and hopefully make you some extra money so you can put it into the next film and make another film that sells. And this would start at the very beginning when you come to decide what type of film you're going to make. Even before you start writing a script, you really need to define a few things that are going to help you to make this something that people want to watch. First off, audience. You need to be very clear about who this film's aimed at. I host the Honest Filmmaker podcast. I've chatted to hundreds of filmmakers, and the really successful ones know who their audience is. And oftentimes they'll listen to their audience rather than their internal voice that's trying to steer them in different directions due to creativity, artistic ideas. They'll listen to that audience because they know what that audience wants. You could start by thinking about genre clarity. So what genre is it? What audience is going to be interested in this? Because if you can't name that audience before you make the film, it's going to be hard to figure out who that audience is after you've made it, if you've not even considered that. And while we're talking about genre, there are certain genres at a micro budget level that are much easier to sell. So we're talking about thrillers, horrors, and action movies. So you want to pick one of those genres. Experimental films rarely make their money back unless they've got big stars in them. So pick a genre, pick a thriller, pick a horror, or pick an action movie. If you want to make a film that sells, you've also got to think about earning that money back that you've sunk into the budget. And one way to do that is to keep that budget low. So be really realistic when you're plotting out the story, when you're writing the script. Think about things you've got. Think about making the film have minimal locations, a small crew, minimal cast. Save yourself lots of costs so you don't need to make as much money back to pay off the budget. You've got to think about your cast strategically. So in some of the films I've made in the past, I've cast a cult actor, and you don't need A-list. What you need is recognition. You need a face that someone's seen before, potentially someone that's got a cult audience who absolutely love this person. So I've used a couple of Doctor Who actors because I know there's an ardent fan base out there who want to see what this actor does next. So do consider that. They don't have to be in the lead role for the film. If you can get them in for a couple of days or a little bit longer, it'd be even better. You can give them a meaty part to take part in, that they're really going to enjoy playing that character. Maybe something that's against type for them, something they've not done before. You can offer them this little indie film to get involved in, try something different, and their audience will come with them, and that will help when you come to sell the film. Having that recognisable face, especially someone who is known worldwide, is really going to unlock distribution for you, whether that be self-distribution or going through a distributor. The other thing I'd say is, if you've got someone with a famous face in your film, and it might even be a local famous face, that can help you during production. It can help you secure locations, it can help you attract other cast. So it's definitely worth talking to people, trying to find out who's a good fit for your film and who's going to bring an audience with them. A film that sells is usually one with a very clear pitch. So you've got that one sentence that describes the film. It's called the cinema test. If you can describe the film in the same way you would to a friend to say, shall we go and see this film at the cinema? It's about this man who does this thing. If you can describe it really easily and it's a compelling pitch, then you know when you come to sell it, someone else is going to be able to read that and understand immediately what they're going to get. If it's easy to pitch, it's much easier to sell. It's much easier to sell something you can define easily and clearly. To sell a film, you've got to make sure it's broadcast ready. And this runs through the whole production process. This is sound, music, picture quality. You've got to make sure all your dialogue's clear, your music's mixed. You've got to make sure it's got a consistent colour grade on it, and there's going to be no distracting technical issues, because that consistency and that production value is going to instill trust in your audience. A film that sells would have a marketing strategy, and I've done a few videos on this you can check out, but you really need to have a package. You need to have a great poster, great trailer, great logline, because these are things that are going to help you sell the film. Distributors, streaming platforms, these are the tools that help those things work. If you're trying to make a film that sells, festivals aren't necessarily your goal, unless you know you've got a really good shot and that's going to get you lots of publicity. I'd probably stay away from festivals, because buyers, sales agents, distribution, most of those don't really care about festival laurels unless they're on a big festival with lots of recognition. Audiences do care, but again, they're only going to care about a festival they've heard of. Trying to sell a film is also about knowing where to sell that film and the best strategy for selling your film. So whether that be a direct distribution route, going through a sales agent, self-distribution, you need to figure out which is the best fit for your film so that you make the most sales. And the final thing that's going to help you sell a film is if you make a good film. And I don't necessarily mean, oh, it's got to be a 5-star masterpiece. What I mean is it's got to deliver on the promise of the premise. So it's got to be what you describe in your marketing, what you set out to define at the very beginning, this genre movie that's going to deliver this one-line pitch that's going to get people curious. That's the film you've got to deliver. Because ultimately a film that sells is one that people are going to want to watch. So we've talked about making a film on a lower budget, a realistic budget, and there's lots of ways to save money on set. So do check out my video about how to save money on a micro budget feature film, and I'll see you on the next one.